these last couple of weeks, I've just been really remembering my dad a lot. Obviously, it's been on my mind, and revisiting some of the things that he told me about what he experienced during the war. And I didn't start hearing some of these stories till I was well into my 20s. He never talked about it, ever. My mom didn't want him talking about it. He never talked about it. He, like most of his generation, was a man of few words. So I did my best over the years as he opened up a little more. If I could get him talking sometimes, I would want to get him talking, and then I would just listen. So most of that's what I would try to do, is get him talking, which was not easy to do. Had to be the right timing, right day of the week, right mood, right phase of the moon, probably, for all I know. It was not easy to do. There are stories. I have stories about individual things that happened. Some during the day, some at night, some during battle, some when they were pulled back. Oh man, yeah, I got stories. He told me one time there was night. The sergeant in charge of their platoon sent a guy up to go up to the top of the ridge and take a look over and try to get a sense of what was happening on the other side. Guy crawled up there, peeked over the top of the ridge, got his head blown off. And then Sergeant turned to my dad and said, "Carter, you're up." So he went up and stuck his head over. And I'm thinking, how in God's name do you get the courage? Where does that come from? I don't know. I don't think I have it. So he stuck his head over, and about 2 seconds later, there was a thump in the ground on the other side of the ridge, about a foot down and to the left from his face, of a round getting buried in the ground right there. And this is one moment of one of those days. I just can't imagine. I can't imagine having, actually being there. 18, 19-year-old kid from Milwaukee on Okinawa in the midst of that carnage and that terror. I mean, guys getting killed left, right, and center all around him every day. Sometimes sitting right next to him. Literally right next to him. I mean, he was part of the reinforcement wave that came in early May. But 250 went in. 32 came out. Well, I heard about you on the radio on a story on NPR. That's how I came to be in touch with you. As soon as I heard the story, and there was people talking in the story about Japanese battle flags from World War II that were being returned, where possible, to families or descendants in Japan. So that's when I contacted you the next day, because that's what I was in possession of, was a Japanese battle flag that my father brought home from his time in Okinawa. It's the rising sun in the center, and all of the white or blank open field was filled with Japanese characters. And the flag I saw in the photograph on your website, like I said, the flag my father brought looked very similar. He had a wall display in our basement with the flag, with that rifle, and the bayonet still attached, that he had hanging Yeah, in our basement. So I spent a lot of my childhood, all my growing up years looking at those items. Around about 1990, I was working at a small college here in Milwaukee, and we hosted a small international academic seminar during the summer of 1990, and there were people there from all over the world, and we had an evening reception. I think it was on the last night of the seminar, but it might have been the first night. In any case, we had this reception, and I was wanting to make people feel welcome, so I hung up as many flags as I could find from the countries of the people who were there. So there was a French, British, South African, several others, and a group of folks came from Japan. So I hung these flags up on the wall in the reception room where we had the dinner that night. And when I still remember very clearly when the folks from a Japanese contingent came into the room, they came in together and they stopped just inside the door when they saw the Japanese flag, and two of the women basically broke down and left the room. The gentleman who was their group leader, they all looked pretty upset to me, but the gentleman who was the group leader, I was really confused. So I asked him what was wrong, and he told me that flag was very difficult for them to look at because the writing that was on the flag, which I never knew what the writing was, he said that those were all the names of the people from the Japanese soldiers' village, and that they all signed his flag to send with him off to battle, and that was very difficult for them to see. So that's when I learned about the writing. It was way back 30 years ago. And I remember way back then thinking, this should go back with them. I didn't have any, I wasn't prepared to ask my dad, hey Dad, do you mind if I find a way to return this flag that you brought back? I wasn't going to do that. But I figured, once he passed, and he's been gone now about 13 years, at some point I would do what I could to figure out a way to see if I could get it returned. So this has all been on my mind these last couple of weeks. And realizing this is from, the perspective of the child of an American soldier who was there. And I wonder what it's like for the children of the Japanese soldiers who were there. I have no idea. So that's why when I heard about a chance to get this flag back to a family, I really wanted to do it. Because it just feels like anything to help continue to heal wounds sounds good to me.